only you and me. I don't know what to do. I'm so confused and I need peace. Take me home. Take me home. Take me Sometimes life weighs me down. I try to press on, but every time I turn around, it seems like I'm up against the wall. My life's upside down. I need to rest away from all life's mess in your secret place. Say there's only you and me. I don't know what to do. I'm so confused and I need peace. Take me to your secret place. Take me to your secret
Hello, we're live, y'all. Hello. Thank you for tuning in and share the live. Good evening. This is your Thursday thing with Inez Jones, and I'm so excited because I have a phenomenal, super educated cast to bring you all today. And so first up, I am going to go ahead and introduce you to this phenomenal cast. And I'm going to first introduce you to attorney Sahara Bell. And Sahara is a family law practitioner. She's currently servicing the Chicagoland area. She has represented clients in all aspects of domestic relations matters, including custody disputes, property, division, maintenance, alimony, child support, order of protections, and post-decree matters. Sahara is dedicated to advocate for her clients with a demonstrated ability to handle complex and demanding family law cares as a product of divorced parents. She has the utmost empathy for her clients and she advocates vehemently for their needs. She is licensed in Illinois and in Georgia. Please give a warm welcome to my first guest, Mrs. Sahara Bell. Yes, I'm so excited. Hello, you want to say hello to everyone?
Hello, everyone. Thank you for that intro.
You are so welcome. I'm so excited to have you on. And let me just go ahead and keep going down the list. So next up, we have Mr. Matthew King. And Mr. Matthew King has an MBA. He's in school right now for his second master's in MS, and he'll tell you more about that. He is a true social entrepreneur with business interests in real estate and financial services. He also has founded and manages a non-for-profit in Baltimore, Maryland, the Harlem Park Community Development Corporation. And progression is his motto that he lives by. He is always moving forward and never, ever looking back, changing other people's lives on a daily basis. Please welcome Matthew King. Hey.
How you guys doing? Thank you for having me.
Yes, you're so welcome. You're so welcome. Right. Oh, Lord. Here we go with the internet. It doesn't want to be my friend today. Okay. And then next up, we have the beautiful Noemi Robinson, whom we'll bring on camera. And she has been on my show before, so y'all might remember her. And let's see what's going on. Oh, come on now. This internet, we were perfect. And now, there we go. All right, and so she has been on before, and she is a return guest. And so this time I had her come in her official capacity as an attorney. And so I'm so grateful that she was able to be here with us today. And so we'll bring her on camera in just a second here. And Noemi is really excited to be here with you. So we can add her to the stream, my beautiful tech team. Hey, oh, she's muted. Say hello to everyone, Noemi, and then I can get your official introduction here going. Uh-oh, there we go. Now you're unmuted.
Hello, everyone.
Hey.
Hey. Okay, girly. And so tell them your law practice. I'm looking here. I got it. Perfect. And so Noemi is also a licensed attorney specializing in family law, health law, entertainment law, contracts, and regulatory compliance. She's also born and raised in Chicago, Illinois. And so she is a product of the Chicago public school system. Both of us went to Kenwood. So shout out Broncos. And we sang in concert choir. And Sahara can sing too. She and I went to college together at University of Chicago. And we're in Solomon. Look at this. I need to have y'all on my next week. Next week we sing.
Oh, wait a minute.
Wait a minute, right? Okay, multifaceted. Okay, we are multi-talented. And Matthew does a little singing too, I think. Just a little bit. But Noemi, she got her bachelor's degree from Xavier University in Louisiana. And she loves and feels that her duty is to give back to the community, particularly mentoring and speaking with adolescents and sharing her story to help them understand the power in making the right choices and staying focused on their goals. So she's also licensed in Illinois, and in Louisiana as well. And so she volunteers for her church, the Bright Star Community Outreach, as a mentor as well. And she is passionate about the state of our youth. And so she enjoys public speaking, traveling, singing, and Attorney Robinson is happy to be here with us this evening. Yes. Oh my goodness. Okay. So make sure that y'all share the live to your timeline, because I want y'all friends, I want your family, I want them to comment. If you're watching, guess how you saw Tanny commented. Make sure y'all comment. Yes, because we want to see and we want to hear from you. If you have questions, and our topic tonight is getting your financial nest in order, or getting your nest in order in general. So that has to do with the documents, because I did a lot of sharing and suggestions, but I was like, let me bring some professionals. Let me bring some professionals on to really talk about the different topics that I believe are super important to everyone, all ages. Everybody should have it in order ahead of time, because it's just a responsible thing to do. And so I was like, all right, well, let's get it in. So I'm gonna go ahead and give the first question to Mrs. Bell, Attorney Bell, and I'm gonna ask you, what would be your suggestions and what are your thoughts around prenups? Because my other lives, we do a lot of relationship questions and topics, and Noemi was a guest on one of them. And so this is a hot topic right now. And quite honestly, me personally, I really was the one that thought I would never, ever even think or entertain doing that with someone. Like I wanted someone that, I wouldn't have to worry about the money and we would be fine. And as I've gotten older, I'm like, I don't know. Work hard for my money. Okay. So what are your thoughts? Give your suggestion and your best advice for those who are maybe, teeter-tottering with that decision.
Well, from a legal aspect, so beyond the moral opinion that people may have in terms of planning for the divorce, anything like that, for a legal aspect, it definitely does secure you. So a prenup can include, it can actually even define and characterize certain properties within the prenup. So if you didn't have a prenup, anything that you acquired from the day of marriage until the divorce was finalized is all considered marital property, whether that's in your name, whether that's in the other individual's name, or whether that's joint. It's all marital property. And, a lot of times when people are anticipating marriage, they're even purchasing things before the marriage. And all those things purchased before the marriage are considered non-marital property, including if you bought a home before the marriage is non-marital. So you can you'll be able to characterize what certain properties are within an agreement. So that's one thing, but definitely if support is an issue, you're considering maybe you want to make sure that spousal support is not going to be an issue at the end. That's something you also can contract for within the agreement. It has to be in writing. It has to be signed by both parties, and it's only effective once the marriage has happened. So obviously, I mean, that makes sense, right? Because if there's no marriage, there's no need for a prenup. So, and also you can modify it during the marriage. You can revoke it during the marriage. So it's something that you can have as security that if later you don't want to use it and if you want to it to fall off, you can. It can even be certain things within the contract that says if we're married for 5 years, then this is voidable, or if we're married for 10 years, then this is voidable. A lot of times people say the first 5 years of marriage is the hardest time. So after that, I think we're pretty good. We don't need the agreement anymore. Some people have it, long lasting. Some people have it contingent on whether or not they have a child within a certain amount of years. There's a lot of things you can contract for. The things you cannot contract for within the prenup are allocation of parental responsibilities, parenting time, and child support. Mm-hmm. Those will always be determined when you get to court at the time of divorce based on the best interest of the child. Mm-hmm. Also, maintenance, while you may be able to contract for that initially, and that's, when I say maintenance, I'm talking about spousal support, alimony, which is basically supporting the other spouse after the divorce. Mm-hmm. The only way you may be able to get outside of that is maybe if there's anything that was not foreseeable at the time of contracting that took place that caused a hardship at the time of divorce. That still may make you liable for spousal support. But property division, all of that can be done. There has to be full disclosure of all assets. If all the assets are not disclosed of, that can also be a way that it can be unenforceable because that person didn't know that you had this 401k that's heavy over there, and they may want to have gotten that, So
they don't get that, okay? Oh my gosh! Thank you so much. Thank you for that in-depth answer. Because I'm not scared of any question, right? So I don't mind asking the hard questions. I don't mind, and I love it because. And if you all have questions while we're live, please do type them in the comments, and we'll scroll those across as well. And so thank you, Attorney Bell, for that one. Okay, I'm going to throw the next question to you, Mr. King. And I'm going to ask you, with regards to insurance, because I know you also have your own insurance agency, what would be the most important insurances that you recommend for people to be sure that they have for themselves and for their loved ones? I did a topic the other day talking about taking care of elderly, and I suggested that people get the insurances, not just the kind that work for you when you pass, but the kind that can benefit you or your children when you're living, or if you're off of work, right? Or if your parents or grandparents needs 24/7 care, there's actually insurance that you can get to help with that. So if you want to give us some insurance information, we would appreciate it.
Sure. Thank you again for having me tonight. It really depends on what the client's financial goals are. There's two types of insurance that is out there: temporary insurance and permanent insurance. And it all depends on what their goals are and what their budget is and what they're trying to accomplish at the time. Temporary insurance is, as they say, term insurance, a little bit of money, huge death benefit. When you pass away, that money goes to your beneficiaries, compared to permanent insurance, where you can actually use that money while you're living. And it has various different riders to those policies that can help you out later in life. So you have long-term care riders on there. You have chronic and critical illness riders, various different things that you can actually use that permanent policy for. So it's a difference between, and I would say a good analogy is, it's like renting and owning a home. When you rent, you occupy that space as long as your lease says, but once that lease is expired and your landlord doesn't renew, you really don't have that place to stay. And that's just like temporary insurance. It has an expiration date on it. And if once it happens, you can't afford, that bump up, because the various different term insurance that are out there, you lock in that rate for a certain amount of years. Some is 10, 20, 30 years. But when that date comes, when that premium actually goes up, if you can't afford it, you don't have insurance anymore. Compared to permanent insurance, where you lock in that rating for the rest of your life. Once you get approved, it never goes up. It stays the same for the rest of your life. And then also it has cash value as well, which you can use in the future to go ahead and buy a house, send your kid to school. so on and so forth. If you wanted to open up a business, you can. So it all depends again on what that client actually wants to do, what that family is doing, what their financial goals are, and what they're trying to accomplish.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. There are lots of options, people, lots of options. And I heard when you talked about the one that, even for chronic illnesses and things like that was one of the ones that I had that I was so grateful that I took the time to get ahead of time, because when I was off work sick, it was able to pay me. And so when my job wasn't. And so like, it's so important, I think, for everyone to have the proper insurance for them and their children. Okay, so my next question is for Attorney Robinson. And so I'm going to ask you with regards to wills. Can you talk about the importance of not only a will, but the difference between the will and a living will?
So with me, normally that would fall under succession law. So with living wills is basically self-explanatory, like you just said. And with a regular will, basically, let me just first of all talk about the importance of both. Okay, it is very important whether you believe you have property or money. A lot of people think wills are not necessary if they don't own a lot of property, or if they don't think they have a lot of assets, or they don't have a lot of money. And the reason why I advise everyone to do a last will and testament is because if you have any interest in anything, it may come up years later after you've passed away and you had no idea it existed. Or if you have children, if you have any interest in any property, even if it's a property that's not worth much, if you live in a home that you are, owning, or if you have a home down south, people tend to forget about this, that a relative may have left you his great-great-granddaddy's house, and it ends up passing on to you through the laws of succession. You want to be able to iron out who is going to be, named responsible for those properties, and how you want to divide up the assets that you do have. Also, it's important because I've seen a lot on the family court side of things is someone may pass away and they may have children that no one knew about, and then they come out the woodwork. Now, there are laws that may supersede some different types of property when it comes to a child. If the child has been acknowledged by the father and the child is acknowledged by the court as legitimate heir, and someone forgot to include them in the will. In some instances, you go to probate court, and usually that judge in that court will usually decide who, if that person, can. I'm talking about in the case of illegitimacy, because that happens more often than we think. If someone pops out the woodwork, says, "Hey, I'm related," this and that, then the probate court can decide whether or not that person should be included in the division of assets or should get a piece of anything. But I do think it's important because you never know, again, how things are going to go once you move on. And the worst thing about not having a last will in place and a testament in place is you thinking that your family's going to work everything out. And that's the biggest mistake I see a lot of people make, because one day everybody's singing Kumbaya, the next day they're fighting over something as small as a lamp. And you want to be sure that you have ironed out who's going to get what, and who's going to be administrator, all of those things. So it's very important. And then, of course, each state is different. Like Louisiana is a little different from Illinois when it comes to certain things, especially with the question of children who may not have been born of a marriage. Usually those courts look out for children who may not have been born of someone's marriage if the person was married, or someone didn't publicly or acknowledge the person on a birth certificate, and they can prove that they're a living heir. Illinois, I've seen different things happen. So it just really also depends upon your state law when it comes to last will and testaments. But anyone who is doing one, my suggestion to you is to contact an attorney that specializes in successions, especially if you think that you may have a lot of heirs. And also, no matter the amount of property that you have, just to make sure that you have all of your ducks in a row, so to speak. So that's just my short spiel on last wills and testaments. In my practice, usually I've done more power of attorneys, and I try to encourage people to do a lot of wills and testaments, and also make sure that it is a valid last will and testament. When I was in law school, I remember reading cases about people writing last wills and testaments on napkins in restaurants, and people actually bringing that to court and thinking that, you're going to tell somebody that this is, how I want to leave things. And you have to be, according to the law of that state, if it requires it to be notarized, if it requires to have 2 or 3 witnesses, those things are important to know, because you don't have certain things in place when you get to court, or when you get, to the position where they're opening your will and they're reading it off, and they realize it wasn't done properly. That could also cause a problem. And you're back at square one. I mean, it's just important to know, again, because I know this is on Facebook, so everybody's not in Illinois that may be watching this. So I try to, when it comes to this type of law, really pay attention to what your state says and how the state mandates how last will and testament is valid, because a lot of they miss a lot of things. I've seen, and it could be as they're supposed to have 2 witnesses and they only have 1, or somebody helped you write this and they're a beneficiary. Like in a lot of states, that is a no. You cannot do that. And I actually have a personal story. When my grandfather wanted to do his last will and testament, he wanted me to help him, and I told him if he was planning on leaving me anything, that I could not do that. And so I didn't help him with it, because it's a conflict of interest, basically, which makes sense.
Yes, it does. And I was going to ask you about power of attorneys. So you kind of went into the power of attorneys as well, but that's important to differentiate, because you have to have the power of attorney for property. You have to have the power of attorney for health as well. And will you also just clarify what a living will is? Because I think a lot of times people don't understand the difference.
So basically with my practice, from what I understand, excuse me, you guys, I'm looking at my phone back and forth because I'm getting 50 billion text messages, because currently I'm technically still working. But basically with a living will is when you, basically when the decedent is, I don't want to say decedent, because that means you're not there. And Tanny just asked the question, so I'm answering it right now, I believe. Is last will and testament and living will the same thing? So no. So basically a living will can change. A last will and testament usually is when someone has passed on. Now I've dealt with those in the state of Louisiana. And forgive me if I get your name wrong. Sarah may be able to speak more to the living wills and testaments and how they work in the state of Illinois, because usually when I've gotten clients who have wanted that information, I usually refer them to a succession attorney here in the state of Illinois. But as far as the state of Louisiana is concerned, it's not the same thing. A living will can be changed, because basically it's a will that a person has derived that is active, and the person may not be necessarily, they haven't passed on yet as far as Louisiana goes. For a last will and testament, that means that's it. It's if it's done correctly, it can't be revoked, and that's the last legitimate documentation that someone has left that is around after they have passed away. That's under Louisiana law, and that's just a brief definition. I don't know if it's any different in Illinois, but maybe Sarah can speak to that if it is.
Sahara, yes.
Sahara, I'm so sorry, Sahara.
That's all right.
But basically,
my understanding is the living will is something that you're changing as you're alive, as you're acquiring new items. As new items fall out, you can modify it. But the last will and testament is obviously the last document that's in place upon you passing away.
So it's not that much different from Louisiana. As I stated, you can alter the living will.
And you also can say in a living will, you can say like what your wishes are, and you can also do it in a power of attorney. But like how long you want to be kept on life support, God forbid, right? And so like it's really important, I think, to do that.
Yeah, even with power of attorneys, there are different types of power of attorneys because all power of attorneys, and I don't mean to jump the gun, so I'll talk about it when you're ready to get on it. Let me shut up. So,
go ahead, you can go into.
Okay, so basically with power of attorneys, usually I see two different types. You have limited and you have general. Power of attorneys are usually governed by the rules of agency principal relationship. So you have a principal, which is the individual who wants to, who owns or some stuff, property, or may have a fear that maybe in the future they may become incapacitated. They usually power of attorney I see happen with people who have been diagnosed with a terminal illness, or with people who are getting older in age, and or maybe they have had a heart attack or a stroke, and they want to go ahead and put one in place. They've had a serious, medical scare or something like that. So with a general power of attorney, it usually covers everything, and it's usually what we considered durable. So basically, durable power of attorney is in the event that you do not have the mental capacity to make decisions regarding your health or property that you may own. The individual who you have given power of attorney to can step in and make those decisions for you. Then you have something that's called a limited power of attorney, where maybe it's not you have one specific thing you want a person to have power of attorney over, and that's your health decisions only. But that doesn't necessarily mean your property. So I can give you power of attorney because let's say, Inez, you're a doctor. And I say, well, my daughter's a doctor. I want my daughter, not my wife, to have power of attorney over my health, anything that has to do with my health or anything that my doctor may say to her, any health decisions that need to be made. However, I don't want her to be power of attorney when it comes to my property matters because I have someone else that I want to do that, or I want to leave that to so-and-so. So limited usually means this limited power in what you can do. A non-durable power of attorney, it usually doesn't happen in situations where someone becomes incapacitated. I usually see non-durable power of attorneys when you want somebody to do a quick job for you. I see it a lot in the entertainment industry. A lot of artists give their agents and their managers power of attorney to make certain decisions for them on their behalf. That doesn't mean they're incapacitated or they're going to be incapacitated. It's just that, hey, I need a house in Beverly Hills. I trust your judgment. Can you go meet the realtor? This is what I want. And I'm giving you a power of attorney to sign whatever documentation you need to sign on my behalf, so I can go ahead and get it. Usually, non-durable power of attorneys end once the action has ended or whatever it is that you were supposed to do. So if I sign the documentation, let's say it takes me a year, or if there's a term, because you can have a term on a non-durable power of attorney, I can say you have a year to help me find a house. If you don't help me find it within a year, we either have to renew the power of attorney or, the power of attorney is over with. If you find the house and you do what I asked and you sign a documentation, then your power of attorney is over with. It's only for that one thing I asked you to do. You can't go and use that power of attorney for other things in the future. It's a one contract type of thing. And then the other one, there's one more that comes up, is immediate power of attorney. And that is usually, like I said, if someone has an emergency, like a stroke, and then you have someone who may have a heart attack. I kind of mentioned that in the beginning. I've seen immediate power of attorneys usually in hospital situations. A doctor may come.
I was actually going to say, Noemi, I was going to add in that I think people should get the power of attorney sooner than the emergency, because you want it already in place ahead of time.
You should, but I think that a lot of people don't even think about power of attorneys. They think about last will and testaments. They think about prenups. They think about insurance. Those things are popular, especially life insurance. Those things are popular. I mean, if you work a regular 9-to-5 job before a corporation, they're offering you some type of life insurance. As far as prenups go, I mean, you hear about prenups every day, but people don't think about power of attorneys because they usually always want to tie it to a health condition or, But I agree with you. I think that you should definitely have one because anything could happen.
And I saw we had a question come across. We're going to re-scroll that question. And Lord, the internet does not want to be my friend today, but it's okay. I'm just going to be pixelated. All right. She says, in regards to limited power of attorney, would you need to have more than one to cover different areas? For example, one power of attorney for property, another power of attorney for my health?
Yes. Yes. So if, like I stated before, if I want my child to be the power of attorney over my health decisions, then that's what I'm going to do. Property decisions, I could have another power of attorney. Now, another thing is important. Pay attention to the state that you live in when it comes to power of attorney. Some states require notarization. Some states require a certain amount of witnesses. And in Illinois, I know that I've seen that they ask for a second power of attorney just in case the person you've designated is unable to do it or something happens to them.
Yeah.
Who's the next in line? So,
okay, we got another question. So Jocelyn says, is it a bad idea for the power of attorney or a healthcare or property to be family? I think that's a personal decision.
Yeah, it depends upon your family. If you know, I mean,
actually, I'm gonna ask Matt to chime in here. Like, what about with insurance? Like, would you have someone who's a beneficiary of your insurance? Would you like? Is there a conflict of interest of any kind to also have them be power of attorney? Do you know, Matthew?
It all depends, and it depends on what kind of policy it is. Some folks that have business owner policies or key people policies or key person policies have folks that are, outside of their immediate family, because the beneficiaries is the immediate family for those types of policies. So it all depends exactly, who that person is. Some folks get mad when, they find out when they pass away that those beneficiaries on certain policies aren't family members. So it all depends on exactly what that policy owner wants and what their wishes are.
Yes. So true. And then what about guardians, Sahara? Do you deal a lot with, like, if people want to make guardianship when they do their legal documents? A lot of times I feel like we throw away that guardian word or godmom, godfather. People just throw it around, but they don't really actually do the documentation. And there actually is documentation in the event, God forbid, if you're passing, who do you want your kids to go to? And so if you want to comment a little about that.
Yeah, so first you have to understand that if a parent passes away, the only time they likely if another person is going to be guardian outside of the other parent, that is definitely going to have to be go to court, because that parent would have to give up their parental rights. So there has to be a certain succession in that. You would have to give notice to that other parent, and usually it's you would have to prove, it's a very high burden to prove that parent is not willing and able to take care of that minor child. That parent has some constitutional rights, obviously, as a biological parent, that you would not be able to usurp. However, if both parents have deceased or gone, and there's always a great way of doing it by putting, definitely in a will or making that known who your intentions are to be guardian in your passing away. There are some other things that could make a person, prove that they would still have to prove and show these documents to a court, and it would have to be a legal proceeding to name them as guardian of that child. But it always makes the process much easier when you have documentation, because the court would likely go with what the intent of that parent was, as obviously the parent knows what's in the best interest of their child. More than likely, they would go with what the parent decides at that point.
Yes, thank you. So true, so true. So yes, you actually want to put it in writing and get it notarized for who you want.
I always say notarized. I know sometimes some states don't require notary, but I think it makes the document more effective that it
Absolutely.
has.
Absolutely. Okay, Tanny says, how do you get power of attorney for child custody if a grandparent needs to get medical care for a child left in their care and the biological parent is not cooperative but won't come get the child? All right. Sorry for the long question. All right, let me make sure I even understand it. Wait, leave it up there, tech team. How do you get power of attorney for a child custody if a grandparent needs to get medical care for the child left in their care? Oh, okay. So somebody left the child with the grandparent, but the grandparent doesn't actually have power of attorney for the child, and the biological parent's not being cooperative, but the baby needs some medical help. So
there's two ways to go about this. There's obviously the probate way of guardianship, but then you can also do actually parental responsibilities. So in terms of domestic relations through parental responsibilities, a third party that is not obviously the parents can be deemed to have parental responsibilities if the child is left in their care voluntarily and they've assumed the duties of they've assumed parenting duties, like they've made decisions for the child previously by enrolling them in school or make medical decisions. Obviously, in terms of this case, if the actual biological parent is present, active, and they're just not cooperating, and it's kind of an unfit situation, then that I would suggest maybe do guardianship, and it could even rise to the level of child protective services being involved. And then that could be, so there's different ways of getting it done, but getting ahead of it could be if they have possession of the child, I would explore talking to an attorney about more details of what would benefit them specifically in their case, of what angles to go.
Thank you for that. And then Matt, can you chime in and just talk a little bit about different insurances? Like a lot of times I think people don't get insurance because I think it's so expensive, but I know there are some policies that you can get that actually if an emergency happens, you can pull from the policy, right? And so can you talk a little bit about the cost effectiveness of that? Because in the event of someone needing guardianship or needing to pull for a medical expense, insurance can really play an important role here.
Yeah, so the only ones that actually have riders and living benefits to it is permanent insurance. So as I stated before, now on these policies, you have like a disability waiver of premium. If you ever became disabled, that insurance carrier can go ahead and pay the premiums on that policy for you. Also, if you ever got deemed with a terminal or critical illness, so say if you had a stroke or you got diagnosed with cancer, so on and so forth, you can actually take out money out of that policy. And it all depends. Some of the policies you can actually get up to 50% of the death benefit, at that time to either fix the issue or to live out your last will and testament. But the only policies that those different riders, living benefits riders are available for is permanent insurance. Term policies do not have those riders.
Thank you. And one more question for Noemi, actually, because I think we skipped over this and I meant to ask, can you talk about how important it is to have a trust and the benefits of, someone putting things in a trust, even if they don't have a whole lot of money or assets, right? And there's private trust, there's public trust, there's all kinds of trusts, and then assigning a trustee and also an executor of your estate, because a lot of times I don't think people are knowledgeable until it's too late that these things need to be in place. Otherwise, your everything, whatever you do have, will be in probate court, as Attorney Bell talked about beforehand. So, Noemi, you want to chime in there?
Yeah. So, just to be very transparent, I have dealt with more wills than trust, and they are different. Mm-hmm. So, I don't want to give out the wrong information regarding trust, but I do think that it is important that, again, you contact successions attorneys in a state that you're living in when it comes to trust, and you understand the laws that govern trust in that state. I'm not sure if Sahara deals with
Sahara, yeah, Sahara, you might want to chime in. Attorney Bell, just say Attorney Bell.
But I did want to say this though, and I left this out about living wills, and I remembered it when Matthew was just talking and he mentioned stroke and terminal illness again. I left this out. I do know that in the state of Louisiana, usually the first time you may hear about a living will is at the hospital, or if you have a terminal illness, because another thing that a living will does is it dictates what type of medical treatment you want in the event that something happens or you receive some type of diagnosis. It's not the same as a do not resuscitate order. It is not a DNR. And that's totally different when you sign one of those. But a living will basically will tell, the medical staff what type of care you want to receive. If I want to be an organ donor, that is another thing that a living will does. And I've been in a lot of medical situations. So I did want to outline that. I'm not sure if it's the same in Illinois, but I do know that is definitely something that they do in Louisiana for medical things. But
off the topic, I love Sahara ponytail. Okay, Tiffany.
But as far as trust go, just to be total transparent, I've done more wills. I don't, and I don't see a lot of us as African Americans and asking about trust. Usually, and it's out there and it's important. But usually when people call me, that isn't usually I don't get those many, that many cases.
Questions.
Questions.
Yes. Attorney Bill, did you want to chime in here?
So the cases that I've had with trust is usually in sometimes child support cases or even divorce cases where it's high income earners and they want to secure the money to pay on a monthly basis for child support. Usually a lot of entertainment or athletes will do this so that they're not coming back to modify or relook back at their finances. Also, trusts are used to put contingencies on when the person can receive that benefit or that property or that finance. So sometimes it could be a trust, like I don't know if we have Power watchers, but as you can see on Power, that episode where he had to basically finish his college education and make a certain GPA in order to get his amount. So you could put contingencies before they can even get to that. And if that doesn't take place, then they won't be getting that. And so that it's important for you to, like you said, make sure you can pick a trustworthy trustee because they have a fiduciary duty to make sure that amount is given to the person that it was entitled to and the contingencies were met before it was given to them, because that could be a huge issue as well.
Yes, so true, so true. Thank you for that. And then, okay, switching topics just a little bit, but I want to go to Mac. I want him to chime in because I got a lot of questions when I did my live Q&A about what do you do for an LLC versus an INC versus an independent contractor or an independent proprietor? Like, how do you know the difference and when to do it with business? Since he also has an MBA, I want him to chime in on this as well.
So again, it all depends on exactly what that business owner is trying to accomplish. I have multiple different LLCs. I have, some that are shell companies, forming holding companies. It really depends on exactly what they're trying to go ahead and what they're trying to accomplish. Some folks have S Corp, some folks have C Corp, some folks have corporations.
Can you explain like the difference a little bit?
Yeah, so and we have lawyers on here, so they can talk about it as well.
I was like, this is the perfect panel
and everything. But so you have LLCs which are limited liability companies. You have multiple member LLCs. You have single member LLCs. With a single member LLC, you can use it. You can still be considered a sole proprietor, depending on exactly how that money is deposited into. If it's deposited into your personal account, or if it goes into the LLC's account. But then also, if you have multiple members in your LLC, you have a multi-member LLC, then you would have to go ahead and file the taxes, business taxes, K-1s, at the end of the year for your taxes and everything like that. If you have corporations, S Corps and C Corps, they are standalone entities. S Corp is pass through compared to C Corp, which is not, meaning that, it's just like an LLC with those taxes are passed through to your 1040, but it all depends on exactly what you're trying to accomplish. Some folks say, hey, listen, I'm doing an S Corp. I changed my business from an LLC to an S Corp so I can go ahead and pay myself a salary and everything instead of doing owner distributions with the LLC. So it really depends on exactly what you're trying to accomplish with your business, I would advise definitely getting in contact with a lawyer. Tell them exactly what you want to do so they can structure your business properly and hit what you're trying to accomplish.
Yes, thank you for that. I appreciate it. And also there's tax benefits, right? To having it incorporated or as an independent proprietor or as an LLC, and honestly, even as a trust, right? If you put things, because you can have a separate EIN number for your trust. And so, I think it's important that people understand and know that. Okay. So thank you for that answer as well. I'm trying to make sure I go over all the questions that I got. So another question, and it might be Attorney Bell for this one. I have a friend who is having trouble with custody of, or even just seeing some of his children, right? The mother has, intentionally not told him where they live and not being cooperative, even though he pays child support. DNA tests have been done. He is the father. Okay. And so how does he go about getting his rights?
Okay. So first thing first, it's always, I think from my perspective, it's always a little harder for the father because they have to establish themselves to be the father in a court proceeding. And that's either done by, as you said, a DNA test, admission, or a voluntary acknowledgement of paternity. Once that's done, then to the court, they have a right for visitation or decision-making, which is allocation of parental responsibility. So if he's done that step and he's on child support, it sounds like, I would suggest that he needs to file a petition for allocation of parental responsibility and for parenting time. He needs to make sure in his petition that he has requested time from mother. Mother has continually denied him time because they look at what is in the best interest of the minor child, and there's several factors that they would consider. And one factor is how well this parent is able to foster a loving relationship with the other parent. And certainly denying that parent parenting time with no basis or of anything would not be what's in the best interest of the child. And a parent is entitled to parenting time absent any finding of abuse within a court of law. So if there's never been any abuse found by him, DCFS, or even in a court of law being found to be of endangerment, then they are entitled to parenting time. Now, what that looks like is based on the facts of their case. Because obviously we have to look at work schedules, what the proximity, how they're involved in school. But more recently, because a lot of students are e-learning, a lot of parents who wouldn't have weekday parenting time are actually getting that time because they're not having to do a drop off at school or pick up at school from work. They're able to be at home with COVID. So I would definitely suggest that your friend talk to an attorney. He can call me if he likes.
Yeah.
And
it's from Vegas, Nevada. So I know Nevada's a little different.
But definitely you want to put everything in. When you file your petitions, you want to put everything in your petitions of what's been going on prior to getting to court. And that's basically shown that you have tried to work with that parent. You've tried to accomplish the goal before asking this court to intervene.
Okay. Thank you. And then Matthew, you had something you want to share with everyone? I'm going to have you just share it here. Uh-oh, you're muted, sir.
I'm back. For my little segment, like I stated before, if you do have a business, make sure you have life insurance in place, especially if you have multiple members. You don't want to be in a situation where that other individual passes away. They're a key person in that policy, in that business, and then you have to deal with their heirs on how their ownership shares is going to be released, if their shares are going to get actually bought out to their heirs to give back to the business, so on and so forth. So you definitely need to have that. And then also you definitely need to have operating agreements, but also succession plan agreements as well that states all of that stuff.
Yes, thank you. So important. And since it is October and it's breast cancer awareness and also Domestic Women's Violence Awareness Month as well. Attorney Bill, I know you deal with orders of protection and things, and I never know who's watching. And even though it seems like only a few people are on now, we get thousands of views afterwards. And so I wanted you to be able to just share on what would be the steps for someone who is in a situation they need some help getting out of.
Yeah. So you definitely, if you're in a situation where you feel like it's levels of abuse happening, and it's been more immediate, meaning recent, a day or two, you want to file what's called an emergency order of protection. You would put the allegations are in that petition, but you can also conceal your address. If you feel like there's endangerment, you didn't have to provide your address within that petition. The emergency order protection would last for 21 days. That person would get served with that during that 21 days by the sheriffs. And then that on the 21st day, you would have a hearing for a plenary, which is asking for a more extended order of protection, usually up to 2 years. And so you want to be able, and you can actually, in terms of jurisdiction over emergency order protections. So the emergency order protection is free. So you don't have to pay for that. But in terms of jurisdiction, you would file you can file where the abuse happened. You can file where your current, if you have a custody case or a parentage case, and it's the person that's the party of that case, I strongly suggest you file your emergency order protection within that case. The reason being is a lot of times there are some people who file outside of knowing that they have a case going on, and they will file in another jurisdiction that may be an appropriate jurisdiction. However, it can be seen in terms of your custody case as you're forum shopping. You're trying to go to another judge to get a better decision, when ultimately it will go back to the judge anyway, because when you have a custody case or divorce case and that judge has heard and know these parties, it's better for that judge to decide, to know the credibility of those parties and so forth. But it's also understandable that, a lot of women think that because the abuse maybe happened a week or two ago and it took time for them to get there, that they can't file an order of protection. That's not true. You can still file an order of protection. Sometimes there are things that restart the clock to make it an emergency based on that other party's behavior. And this is not just for women too. I know this is October is women, but there's men who are who get abused and hit on, and they have key jobs. I'm talking about police officers to nurses and you want to protect your position, because an order of protection does fall on your background. And when I say protect your position, a lot of times the woman will go first and they could get it when actually the man was the victim. So you don't want to say, I'm going to hold off, I'm going to let things fly. You want to just to make sure that things are paper trailed accordingly to protect yourself. You want to make sure you bring those allegations. But once you do bring those allegations, they are severe. You are alleging that, so you are in fear of someone. So your actions need to be appropriate after you get the emergency order protection, which means don't call, don't reach out, don't invite that person back over, because it can be shown when you actually get to your hearing for the plenary that you're not in fear, that this was not something serious that needed to be to include the judge's involvement.
Right. Thank you for that. I wanted to make sure I didn't forget to ask that question. I saw we had another question come across. And so it says, what is the difference between permanent insurance and life insurance? I currently have only life insurance policies for myself and my daughter. I'm sorry, I joined a little bit late. I'm not sure if this question was already answered. Okay, Matthew?
Yeah, I actually just sent her a message on Facebook explaining the two. But as I stated earlier, temporary insurance is term insurance, a little bit of money, huge death benefit. If something happens to you, that money goes to your beneficiaries, compared to permanent insurance, where you can actually use that money while you're living, because it has those living benefits. So it all depends, again, on what you're trying to accomplish. But I would recommend, especially if you're around in the young ages, and also if you do have a young daughter and everything, to get some kind of permanent insurance, get a whole life policy on her where she locks in that rating for the rest of her life. And then also you can build up that cash value where you can use that money to send her to school, get her a house, If she wants to open up a business, give her a down payment, on that business, pay for a wedding, so on and so forth. You can do that with a permanent policy.
Love it. Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to share some of our upcoming events, and then we're going to come back and I'm going to ask all of you all to give your final remarks. So think about any and everything you want to say because the hour flies by. It flies by. And so I am going to tell you all on Mondays that I do my makeup events. And so for those of you who might want to tune in, we get it in every Monday at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time for our Makeup Mondays. And so next we have highlighting. And if you missed the All About the Brushes, you can watch it on my YouTube channel. And if you watch it on YouTube, be sure to hit that like bell, hit the subscription. And then, of course, at the end of the month, we're going to do contouring. And so we just have fun with some makeup, and you get to learn a little bit about the business as well. And then next event that we have coming up, we're going to keep it moving, is next week. Yay! It's our fourth Thursday. Every fourth Thursday, I sing for y'all. And I always bring someone on. So I'm going to have Miss Sahara and Noemi. Y'all going to have to come with left. But next week, I got Mr. Jamel Michael Lewis, who he and I sang in concert choir together at Kenwood Academy High School, Go Broncos, and he was on Sunday's Best, and so he can sing, y'all. And so I'm so excited that he's going to be able to join us next Thursday, and so we're just going to go back and forth and sing some lives for y'all. So it's a night of music, and so you all know I do different topics, different shows, different things every week, and so you tune in, and if you have a question or comment or suggestion, be sure to send it to me, because I do listen and make sure to give you my audience kind of what you all want to hear. And then I think we got one or two more slides. And yes, November 7th, save the date, 11 a.m. It's a beautiful business. And me and my co-host Dee Hawkins have a few sister sales directors that are going to be on, and we're talking about the business, how you can make a 6 and 7 figure income with Mary Kay. And so a lot of people are looking for an extra stream of income, a little side hustle, especially during this pandemic time. And so I want to share with you all that information. And then last but not least, if you aren't a part of my Breaking Belief Barriers group, we want you to be a part, okay? Our Breaking Belief Barriers group on Facebook. It's just type it in, Breaking Belief Barriers, or facebook.com/Breaking Belief Barrier. And my tech team will scroll it across the bottom as well. And so I am so excited that in this group, I give you all suggestions. We do question and answer. I do some live trainings, and every day something inspirational to help you all break through those belief barriers so that you can be your best self, so that you can achieve your best in your life, in your business. And so it's for women, it's for men, it's for all of us. And so, yes, be sure to click it. And if you're not following me, go ahead and follow me on all social media platforms at Inez K. Jones. And I want to go ahead and allow you all to give your last comments. The hour goes by. So anything you want to share, we talked about an array of topics. We're trying to squeeze it all in this hour so that people really know about getting their nest in order, because part of getting your nest in order is getting the documentation in order. And it's not an easy topic. It's not a fun topic, but it has to be had. It has to be done. Doesn't matter if you don't have a whole lot of assets or not. You want to get your nest in order, get your documentation right. And so I'll turn it over for you all to give your last thoughts. Who wants to go first? Noemi, we haven't heard from you in a little while. You want to go ahead? And we're going to give our last quick remarks.
I knew it was going to be me, but no, first of all, thank you, Inez, for this topic in this platform. This was very important, and I learned a lot of information, especially on the insurance side of things. So thank you again. Just want to reiterate, you're never too young to start thinking about power of attorney, or last will and testament, or even looking into a trust. I say as soon as you turn 18, start thinking about power of attorney. I mean, that's when you would usually do it, because then that's when you become of age. You're no longer a minor. And also to piggyback off of something that Attorney Bell said about protective orders, because this is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. You can also put one in place if you are being stalked, or if someone has threatened you. I want to reiterate that, because she mentioned women and men, and women do that a lot to men. And hey, I've seen it. So you have to be, there's nothing shameful about it, men. It's nothing unmanly about you filing a protective order against a young lady and women saying, to you, just because he hasn't physically laid hands on you or physically touched you yet. If you feel threatened or, he's
or
been
it's
following
she.
you,
Listen, this is
stalking
gender
you,
neutral,
or what
okay? Because
have
it could
you.
be a she and a she, a he and a he.
Right, she, whatever. He, she, be, whatever. Whoever. Just make sure that you are protected. I've seen some unfortunate situations where people have gone and had a hearing, it's been granted. Then they go and deal with the person in between the time that the order is in place, and then the judge doesn't take it seriously when they have to go back in court, and then years later or months later you hear about something tragic. So that's just very important. But I enjoyed everyone here. Kudos to everybody. And Attorney Bell, sure I'll be talking to you soon. Have to get your information. Thank you, Inez, so much.
You're so welcome. Thank you for being on. And yeah, I had to add that in there because like it was one time I called Attorney Bell like, girl, this baby mama. I said, she dealing with the wrong one. What I need to do? I said, I ain't the one. And let me tell you, I ain't hear from her again.
Listen, file it. It doesn't have to be against somebody you're in a relationship with.
Exactly. That's what I'm like. It could be anything. And I've had some craziness. So listen, y'all.
I believe you.
Okay.
Crazy, but go ahead.
Lord, okay. All right. So we're gonna go to Attorney Bell and then Mr. King to wrap us up before we end this evening.
So I just want to recap. Thank you again, Inez, for inviting me. I had a great time. And I just wanted to recap in terms of, I know we first talked about postnuptial agreements, but postnuptials are not for just individuals who have a lot of income or a lot of assets. Postnuptials can be for anyone. And especially if you're starting off and you haven't maybe acquired or you haven't even started your business, but you have hopes to do so. You have hopes to maybe grow a real estate portfolio or different things like that. You just want to make sure you're secure up front because it's a lot of, it's probably more beneficial to get before the marriage than in the marriage, because if they refuse to sign in the marriage, then if you acquire that business or not, it's marital property. So you want to make sure that you just get that in place. If that is of concern for you, you want to make sure you get that in place prior to the marriage, and understand that you have options, that it doesn't have to last throughout the entirety of your marriage. You can always revisit it. This is something that can be modified. I know we also talked about a little bit about child custody in there and those things. You definitely want to get ahead of these situations. I know sometimes things can be so amicable, even with situations where they're seeing the child all the time. And maybe it's because you haven't moved on yet to a new person. But once you do, now you're not seeing the child anymore. Now I want child support. Now I want all of these things. Different things like that can happen and can cause, and if you don't have the protections in court, the court doesn't recognize you having anything, especially from a father's side, until you have established it. And then lastly, if you are in danger, if you are in fear of yourself, of your safety, please reach out. There are domestic violence clinics. There are 555 West Harrison actually has advocates there to help you and fill out those documents if you need to.
In Illinois, those are for those in Illinois.
That's right. On our Facebook, we're everywhere. So 555 West Harrison is Illinois, and they will help you. There's advocates that can help you. And as to Attorney Robinson's point, stalking also is so no stalking are for individuals who have no relationship with the other party. Order protections are usually for people who have a child in common or have been married, or those things, but the no stalking, no harassments are usually for individuals who maybe have never lived in a home together and there's no relationship there, but there is some consistent stalking and you've asked for that to cease and they've continued that. It could even be working relationships. It can be partnerships that have gone bad, and there's some things that are happening, or threats to remove things from property or damage your property because business partnerships have gone bad. So it's not just for what you think friendships or romantic relationships or those other like. So please reach out and get help if needed.
Yes, yes. Okay. Thank you so much. This is so good information. I want people to hear that she said post-nuptial and pre-nuptial. We talked about both. So if you missed it, go back and watch the replay because we're streaming on YouTube too. So for all my YouTube followers. And then Mr. King, come on and give us your final thoughts.
All righty. Ms. Jones, thank you again for having me tonight. As I stated earlier, you never should wait to get life insurance. The cost of insurance is the cheapest now. Don't wait. Go out here and get it. We're in a crazy time right now dealing with the coronavirus and everything like that. Actually, some carriers, if you do actually catch the coronavirus, you will be uninsurable until you get cured from it, and you have to, be cured for a certain period of time. When you have your children, get your children life insurance at day one, right when they're born. You don't even have to have their social security number at that time, but go ahead and do that. Also, take out policies on various different family members that you have as well. I have clients that are in other ethnic groups as well that take out policies on the oldest person in the family. When that person passes away, that money gets back into the family. Remember, life insurance checks don't bounce. They do clear. So you have to, and it's multi-millions that's getting passed down to these various different families. And these are some of the things that us as African Americans, Black folks, we don't have these conversations in Black and Brown communities. I think people have this misconception of, or myth of, life insurance is death insurance. People don't want to talk about death and everything like that, but death is real. It's going to happen one day. So you have to prepare for it, but then also you do have to leave a legacy, leave money to the next generation so they can be better off, so on and so forth. I had a kid that I actually played high school ball with. His dad passed away, was a business owner, and his dad left him $4 million that he can touch. Yeah, he had stipulations in that money as to his will that he had, but he still has access to $4 million within his lifetime and everything, and that's a game changer. And it's something that you definitely need. So don't wait. Go out here and get it. If you have businesses, make sure that you have, buy-sell agreements with your owners, key person policies for key people that's in your business that you need to insure, because think about it. If something happens to that individual, your business is going to take a loss due to the fact that you're going to have to take time and money to go ahead and replace that person. So those are the things that I wanted to share today. And
you can get burial insurance too, right?
Yes, you can get burial insurance. You can get final expense insurance and everything. But I personally would recommend definitely get more than just, putting you in the ground. Definitely leave some money to the next generation and everything like that. Honestly, when somebody passes away, you should be getting a check. Some money should be getting passed down instead of us passing the plate at these funerals.
Yeah.
So that's what definitely needs.
Doing a GoFundMe. Let me tell you. Let's get it together, y'all.
Or doing a GoFundMe. And everything. So, and also those death benefits, that is tax-free money, so you don't get taxed on that money as well. So those are a lot of various different things that you need to take into consideration. If you want to go ahead and send your kid to school, you can use permanent policies to go ahead and do that as well. But definitely get it at now, or even when they were born, when they're the youngest, so they can lock in that rating for the rest of their life, get approved. You don't have any illnesses, so on and so forth. So again, I appreciate my time today. And Ms. Jones, thank you so, Roy.
Yes, thank you. Appreciate you, bro.
No problem.
So I'm so happy. I just wanted to showcase. I told them on a different live. I was like, I have the best friends. Okay, like my network is dynamic. So I'm just gonna ask them to be on my show. I have someone in every field. So if y'all got a question about something to ask me, because 9 times out of 10 I know somebody who can do it. And you all look them up. Attorney Robinson can help you all, especially with entertainment law. And she also does the living wills and power of attorney. And Attorney Bell can help you with anything that you need, order of protections, custody, divorce, pre-nups, post-nups. Okay, because she says, okay, wait a minute. Attorney Bell, can I pick your brain after live in regards to the stalker protection of order? I work in the field of child welfare and expertise. It may help me out with a case.
Absolutely.
Yes, definitely. And then, of course, if you need some insurance, you hit up Mr. Matthew King. Okay. And also, he really didn't talk about his not-for-profit, but he got like millions of dollars in grants in his non-for-profit. So he has a great hat for that as well. Okay. And he has an MBA. So, you know, we went the insurance kick here a little bit, but he can help you all in those arenas, and maybe we'll do a different live. I'll have to bring y'all back. Y'all are so phenomenal. Thank you for joining. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing your time, your gifts, your knowledge, and your expertise. I so appreciate you. And for all of our guests watching, thank you for being here. Thank you for commenting. Thank you for actually tuning in, and be sure that you save the date and time at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time every Thursday. We get it in with my Thursday thing, and you can tune in and watch on YouTube at Inez K. Jones or Facebook, and you can always go back and watch the replays. And for those of you who watch this later, put hashtag replay, let us know that you watched it, and enjoy my song Secret Place on the way out. It's an original, and you all have a fantastic evening. Good night.
All righty. Stay safe. God bless.
God bless.